Welcome, Facebook fans, Summit Coaching fans. We have what is it? Golly, it's New Year. It is New Year's Eve already. We've got, I guess about 12 hours here left in the 11 and a half hours left here in the East Coast. And man, firework night. I think it's probably going to be raining here. I think I mentioned that yesterday on yesterday's call. My kid's not too excited about it, but hey, we're here. We're going to be the topic today. First of all, our special guest, Daniel, is in the house with us today. We welcome him, and we'll talk about him in just a few minutes. And then, of course, Dr. Scott Starnes is on with us, of course. And today, guys, we are going to be talking about closing the books. I thought we had to do this one. I mean, we're going to shut down 2020 again. This is one of my favorite, probably best years. It's been wild. It's been changing. But again, if you enjoy change and you embrace change, wow. I mean, it's been one. I think we've all changed just a little bit. So anyway, Daniel, if you will, just kind of introduce yourself and then, what are your plans as far as closing your books? You've had a very successful year. Each year you seem to be doing, you're in the insurance business and you seem to be doing very well. But what are you doing to close out the books, to really kind of say, okay, I'm going to do even better next year. I may even double, triple, who knows? And maybe even open some new ideas, new doors for you and your family. So tell me a little bit about yourself, and we're glad to have you on, by the way.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk for a little bit. My name is Daniel. I live up in the Seattle area, up in the Pacific Northwest. Moved all around the country ever since I started mortgage protection. I think some people would say I've been a successful agent. I don't know if I would always call myself that, but I think that's just how that internal self-talk goes sometimes. But issued about $1 million over the last 5 years or so. So I think, just as we were brainstorming, Jimmy and Dr. Scott, I think one of the things that I realized is that this year, with everything going on with the pandemic, it was easier. It was much more difficult to continue to do the work that made me successful. And because I like to do stuff, I kind of got busy going down the rabbit hole and searching for different ways to, finding different tools, setting up different spreadsheets, doing things that weren't always income driving activities. And so for me, as I've kind of re-looked over this past year, it's about going back to the basics for me. And I actually got a wake-up call this morning. Been using I found an agency autopilot tool that is going to be extremely helpful for my business, mostly because I can upload some aged leads, some older leads, into that autopilot and do text campaigns. And that's just a different way to reach clients, as opposed to just hammering the phones and getting no's on those aged leads, because some of them can be 3, 4, 5 years old. And one of the things that struck me as I was going through my database of old leads is just how many I didn't resolve. And I'm sitting over here, and people, like I said, people would say that I've been somewhat, successful. But man, when it comes to the close ratio on leads, the amount of leads that I have purchased versus the ones that I have not closed, there's so much money that I've left on the table for my family. But even more importantly than that, there are so many people whose responsibility it was for me to call them. And if I did, I didn't track it, but clearly I didn't do a good enough job. So one of the major goals for me going into next year is to see an 80% resolve ratio on the leads that I purchase. And for me, that means getting yes or no on 80% of those leads. We all know that you're not going to reach everybody. That's fine. But just because somebody doesn't pick up the phone isn't an excuse to count that as a dead lead or resolved lead, even if you called them 20 times. So that was just something that I think will be much more valuable for me, is having that goal in mind, that 4 out of every 5 I need an answer on, because I clearly haven't been doing a good enough job doing that. So
Gotcha. I got you. What are some other things you were mentioning earlier, visual things? What are some visual things you're doing to help you, to get up in the morning and get to have that drive that I'm going to do better. I'm going to do this weekly, daily, weekly, monthly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are some of those things?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot. For those of you who know who Dr. Benjamin Hardy is, I myself just really personally have that the insurance industry can be a lonely industry sometimes. We tend to go as hard as we can, and then we burn ourselves out and we beat ourselves up for not doing the work that we are too burnt out to do. And for me, that led to a little bit of depression, especially with the pandemic going on. And I found Dr. Hardy and his book, Personality Isn't Permanent, Willpower Doesn't Work. Those books have been very, very helpful for me. And I think the biggest takeaway that I've taken from that is that scientifically speaking, most successful people have been able to categorize themselves into three different people: their past self, their present self, and their future self. We carry a lot of baggage with us from our past self in the sense of negative self-talk and the way that we, run ourselves into the ground. Nobody will say that about us, but we say it about ourselves. And the present self is, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's what we're doing on a day-to-day basis to reach our future self. And so I was doing a lot of thought on where I wanted to be 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road. And I set an income goal. I set, to be able to accomplish what I want, having a home, having a couple dogs, couple kids, out of debt. I got some student loan debt and a car payment, getting rid of that. This would be the amount of income that I would need to make. And so based on my contract percentage, how much business would that look like? And so for me, I took it all the way down to the monthly level. For me, my goal is to issue $25,000 of business a month.
Okay.
And the biggest thing there is that is an attainable goal that won't lead to burnout, because my biggest month is about double that.
Okay.
But I followed that up by not doing anything the month after that. So it wasn't really helpful.
Right.
And so one of the things that I thought about was just, I'm a visual person. I like visual cues. Is I actually made one of those, Christmas paper chains,
Okay. Yeah.
just over in the corner. I put 60 rings on it. Each ring symbolizes $25,000 of issued business. Every time I issue $25,000 of business, I rip a ring out. And if I do it consistently, then by the time that paper chain is gone, I will have reached a multitude of the goals that I've set for myself. So that's something that's been really helpful for me too. Yeah, I'm excited to get going.
That's awesome. Scott, I'm sure you've heard of this and all the studies you've done and things. What are some things you're hearing out of that? Just hearing that the visual, the already laying out the goals. I mean, guys, you've got to be. I mean, if you haven't written down your goals, we were talking about a guy yesterday, Daniel. He calls me and he's like, I hadn't even written down my goals. I'm like, how have you not written down your goals? That's the first thing you do before you start, going forward. So go ahead, Scott. What you got, man?
It's incredible. This is the realization when you know what your dream is, you know what your overarching goal is, you can then see the steps that it takes to achieve that goal. And, as we were talking earlier, it's when we get to the point in our planning that we can put together something that is graphic in nature, it gives us that visual cue every day. We see it hanging there, and we have that burning desire to achieve that goal. As that chain will begin to shrink, it's becoming manifested. And that's something that we can talk about a different day. Just manifesting the things that we have from a vision that we have. We internalize that vision, we attach emotion to it, and then we begin to attract the different pieces, the different people that we need in our lives to make that become reality. So, this is a wonderful example. Another example is a vision board. I've seen several people posting about vision boards this week. And, vision boards are extremely powerful because they are visual. We process 90% of the things that we experience on a regular basis visually. So when we can internalize those things and allow those to begin to fuel the dreams that we have, those are the things that we need to do on a regular basis. We need to have that visual cue. We need to have a kinesthetic or motion attachment. So, like with the chain that we talked about, the physical manipulation of one of those rings makes that reality for you. It makes it a piece of that goal, or one of the smaller goals. It's just manifestation. It is the realizing of that goal being achieved. So this is incredible stuff that we have a real life example of how this is working. And obviously we're going to continue to follow up with Daniel and see how he's progressing with the links, because that's something that we want to make sure that he is following up with on a regular basis, because that's just it. I mean, it's an accountability factor. It's iron sharpening iron. Those are the things that we do as businessmen and business women. I mean, everyone should be doing this for everyone else, keeping each other accountable and helping each other when we come across an issue where we're struggling or in a situation where we've hit a rut. Okay. We have to help each other, get through those barriers and break through to become what it is we want to become. Because after all, I mean, we have to remember, we have to put the feet on the vision.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's never going to become reality. So I think this is incredible, Daniel. I commend you for having those goals laid out the way you've got them laid out. I mean, that does show a tremendous amount of reflection, and it is a wonderful plan moving forward. And I encourage anyone who's watching us to do the same thing and make your goals big. Make them so big that you have no idea how you are going to account for them. You don't know how you're going to accomplish them, because it's in that moment that you begin to realize that there are multitudes of ways that you can draw people to you to help you accomplish that dream. All right. And those goals, because it's so important to bring the team along with you, because when they see you becoming successful, they look at the model and then they replicate the model. And regardless of what industry you're in, when you begin to replicate the leadership qualities that you're showing, that's when the law of multiplication just exponentially begins to grow your business. It's just how it works. Mm-hmm. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Jimmy.
Man, I'm telling you, that's almost, I love talking to you, Scott, too, because you'll take a person like a Daniel, and he's putting his thoughts basically into actions. And so many, I of course quote Coach Bird all the time, but that's one of those things, is the thoughts there. Now you got to put it in action, and then you got to follow it through to completion. If you do that, because so many people don't even complete it, but he's already putting it into action, and then go into flow. I mean, just freight training into 2021 and not even looking back. That's one of the things I like to tell my agents too, when with my team, is, don't be scared. Don't be afraid. This, it should scare you, but enough to make you go. But man, what a show today. Definitely happy New Year to you guys. We'll take tomorrow off. We'll be back on Monday. Check us again, of course, around 12 o'clock or so. But man, Daniel, we appreciate you being on. What a story. And I wish you the best on the chains. And I even told a group yesterday, I was training yesterday, and told them to go ahead and send me their goals so that I could hold them accountable. I think that's, and if you want to do that, Daniel, you're more than welcome to, because then I can go back in 4 weeks from now and say, okay, what you told me this 30 days ago, have you done anything? And I like to hold my agents accountable, and my team. And just like you, Scott, just that's what this thing's about, is actually, you've got the idea that I bet we can all name several people that said, hey, I'm going to do something different this year. I'm going to make this change. but most people don't. Was it 85% of New Year's resolutions? Nobody ever does them. So maybe this will be the year that folks will actually write them down. Have the thought, put them on paper, just like Daniel did. Put it on paper, put it in a visual board so you can see it, and go out there and do it. So, well, guys, I appreciate it again, and appreciate our audience. Summit Coaching, check us out. If you got any questions, reach back out to us. Again, thanks, Daniel. Scott, you take it easy, and we'll see you guys on Monday.
Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year, everybody.